Neil, and welcome to the Crosscast. It's episode 5 of season 9, and things are gradually building up as we approach the first of the World Cups, which is only a few days away. In today's Crosstalk, we are going to look back at the European Championships, which gave us some awesome racing, some really contrasting races, and we might even touch on what frames were being raced. And we're going to revisit a dry Neil, just because Neil wants to. Round 4 of the National Trophy is still fresh in, well, my mind at least, and it's a race that came from, well, it was supposed to be a wet Sandwell Valley in West Brom, and it was absolutely, wet beforehand. But yeah, West Brom in Birmingham. And in today's last round, we're going to look ahead to the opening World Cups at last, end of November, opening World Cups from Tabor and Flamanville. I'm joined in the studio by Xan and Matt Payne. Matt, I see that the World Esports Champs was pretty drama-filled, and by the looks of it, you're still there. How's the UAE?
The UAE is very nice. It's sunny, it's gorgeous, it's hot, it's about 42 degrees. However, I have to say, this is not the UAE. This is just the Full Speed Event Studio backdrop that I still haven't changed from the weekend. Because, to be honest, after we had a really packed schedule, we were working remote on it, and it was drama-packed. It was brilliant. The production was fantastic. It was great. And we did a lot of rehearsals. There was a lot of days and a lot of time in rehearsals, making sure everything goes right. It's a world championship, and it's combining a live show event. The stage, you can actually see behind me is the stage. There's 2 tiers of bike areas. There's a massive TV wall, and it's a massive stadium show. So it's like combining a concert tour with a bike race, with a TV production live, with remote commentary live, and in-show hosts. Some great hosts. We had Ant McCrossan, a colleague of mine on the cyclocross, in fact, hosting with Hayley Simmons and Katie Bates, track sprinter from Australia, Olympian world champion. In the studio, by the stage, doing the analysis, we were doing the commentary. It was brilliant, and the racing was out of this world. It really was. It was like I was. It's almost like I was watching cyclocross. Almost a bit like when you've got, when you've got dominant like Matthew Van der Poel. We kind of had that in the women's and the men's race. Kate McCarthy is on another. She's on another planet. She's just an amazing, amazing athlete. And she defended her title. Jason Osborne defended his. And they were a class apart. Behind, though, it was like every corner on a cross race where people are overtaking and taking a place and then getting back and then going over the top. Then somebody dives on the inside. Then somebody slips on the steps. It was one of those. Only this was a points race on stages. So somebody would sprint, somebody would attack on the hill, somebody get a gap. Because the points on the last lap were double points, you'd have different people scoring points here, there, and everywhere. And it literally came down to 1 point between the silver and bronze medal, and 1 point from, I think, silver from bronze to 4th. And that is over a possible maximum score of 600 and something points, 688 points. It was so, so close. And it literally came down to how many people were between the different medalists on the final sprint, which meant my useless maths didn't come into play. Unfortunately, we could use the computers because my maths is rubbish, as everybody knows. But it was brilliant. It was a really, really good event. Absolutely loved it. Missed it like crazy. A bit like I missed not being at the side of the cross for the national trophies. Being there. But I have to say, having coffee on tap in the studio, having multi-tiered studio desk, having... I think I was on 8 screens, and one of them was split actually into 2 for most of it. Live updates all going on everything and instructions on everything. It was nice to be in a really controlled environment and not have the music blasting in your ears and the crowd and people coming up and saying hi, and you could just focus. So it was okay. It did mean I also got to watch loads of cross because I didn't have to transport back and forth to the hotel and things like that. So, yeah, so all the good things that I said on the show last time were very true, because I got watched loads of cross. Europeans was brilliant, and so I absolutely loved the ride. And then I was watching your social media, Xan, and it didn't. It looked more Balearic than Brummy on your social media. I might be quite ignorant of Sandwell Valley, but I'm sure it doesn't have that big a lake, and the sky's quite that blue. Certainly not last weekend.
Yeah, unfortunately I wasn't at Sandwell, unsurprisingly. No, I have been very, very fortunate and had a nice trip to Mallorca. So it was the first time I've probably seen the sun in November, because normally I'm so deep in the cross season, I'm somewhere in a muddy field, riding around, suffering, and being very tired, cold, and wet. So it made a lovely change. This season it's quite packed, as I think we mentioned that we're getting up to the World Cups next week. And when I looked at my calendar at the start of the year, I worked out there are not many weeks off. And as much as I love doing the trophies, and I love, especially right now wearing the jersey in the UK, I looked at my calendar and went, I probably could do with having a week off racing, or I will race every week. So long term, that's just the best plan for myself. And one of the best ways of making the most of this time not racing, and to actually make sure I don't get tempted, because I must admit, when I started seeing the weather forecast, the temptation to enter Sandwell just got higher and higher. So it's like, take myself away, go away, because then you can't fall into any temptation or any trap. So just went for a nice week away riding, really getting the miles in. Because again, especially later in the season, when we get to double races every weekend, and particularly the curse period where you could have 3 or 4 races in a week, trying to just get the hours on the bike is so tough. So just kind of banked up loads of hours, enjoyed it, had lots of coffee, great time, and yeah. But as I said,
loving the lots of coffee.
Oh, honestly,
I'm loving the lots of coffee, but get the miles in the bank. And I think I think it's a really hard choice, isn't it? When
definitely
you've grown up racing the UK scene and you've been heavily involved in it, to then not be in it. And I get this now, whenever there's a trophy, it's like I just want to go, and I kind of like, it's like I'm kind of planning my trips back to the UK, thinking, I'm going to go back there, but I've got to work here. And then thinking, I really could, but if I just extended it a couple of days, I miss on a little bit of work here, but I could get to a trophy and do that. And it's like, actually, do you know what? I can't. I need to actually focus and stay sort of mission focused on actually doing what's going to deliver that best. And that's sadly sometimes means misses races you love. Neil, you definitely weren't on a beach putting in the miles in Mallorca. That's for sure. There's no way you would have missed Sandwell Valley.
No, of course not. No, I wouldn't have missed Sandwell. I tried to go back once before to find out the last national trophy I hadn't been to, and that was before records began. It was a long time.
If you're out there and you remember the last national trophy that Neil didn't go to, do get in touch with the Crosscast. You can get in touch with Neil. It's at Crosscast Neil on Instagram, on social media, and get in touch with him and let him know the last time, because his memory's obviously going a little bit, bangs on the head. It happens to all of us. When was the last national trophy that you can remember that Neil wasn't at?
Yeah.
Or the most
I was at Sandwell. Previous week I was at Markeaton Park, you mentioned last time. I love that course so much.
It's a good one.
And it was, of course you love courses you go well on, but and I do go well on it. But it's also it was actually a lot of stuff that linked in with Sandwell, where it's what I always call the lemming line. The lemming line where all the lemmings go, but often that isn't the fastest line. Quite often it is, have to hasten to add, but not always. And if you're somewhere,
have you got a spreadsheet worked out, Neil, for this? You must have.
No,
you must have a spreadsheet.
Not yet, maybe. But
watch this space.
Yeah, but Mark Eaton. I mean, what was a real joy on that for me is, I go well. It's got the right mix of climbing and skills and everything else. But especially when you then come into bits, which like you take a slightly different line and you kind of go into it and you know that you've taken seconds out of people who you're with. So yeah, that was really fun. I tried to do the same at Sandwell, but the problem with Sandwell is that everyone's good, but yeah, it was I really enjoyed my race at Sandwell. I really enjoyed racing the course. It went hard. It kind of had what felt like masses of elevation change. I'm not sure that it actually did, but boy, did it feel like it. But yeah, just after that run up, which was the most horrible run up ever. Normally a run up you can get a rhythm, or it's like a punch, or it's a xylophone run up, as my favourite metaphor this year. But no, it was just really hideous. There was no rhythm to it. It was, one step your foot would fall away, another one it'd be on a firm bit of, do I say, rubble or whatever, and then another side of it would be muddy and slippery. So it wasn't a nice run up, and you'd just done a climb, and so at the top of that, you're absolutely, it felt like you were at the top of the cyclopark run up. It was that tiring, and then you got back on the bike, and then it had this really punchy climb, which went on for, it wasn't that long, but timing it took about 7 or 8 minutes. At least that's what it felt like, to get up that climb at full gas. And you were just you were right on the limit of traction. So you entered that section in the red, and then you had to make this climb. And that was really tough at that section there. But then you went around this 180 at the top. And there was this fantastic run down from there. It was pick your lines. How much do you want to take risks on it? And again, there was another lovely line as you came out through the gate. There was a little gate down there, and if you took what was the fast line, in my opinion, then you could take a slightly different line to the worn one, and then it gave you loads of speed kind of coming into the next section of the course. But yeah, as a race course, it was. I really enjoyed racing it, and that downhill section. Actually, I know that several people went through the tape, and I'll come on to the amazing pit moment from my own personal life a bit later on. But yeah, but it was. I was thinking back to what was my experience of Sandwell Valley, and hard work. Those are the two words.
Okay.
The biggest,
that's not what I got from you in that description, and your joy and the climbing, and then it was like this was like a perfect course, but saying it was hard work.
No, I'm not. It was just everything else around it, about it, was just hard work. So yeah, I took it from a personal perspective here. We decided not to set up on the Friday night. We normally set up on the Friday night. Because of the absolutely horrific rain. It was definitely the right decision. We used the time for other things actually, but it was definitely the right decision to do. And driving over there that night, honestly, it was awful. It was shockingly awful. It's not often it's that bad driving through, because of the heavy rain. So then it meant we got there the next morning. Gazebo's not up, of course. Everything's wet, and so it takes longer anyway. We've lost an hour, and then so I only got one pre-ride lap in, which is the one I videoed. Actually, as it turned out, I don't think I needed another lap. It was fine. And then I was we were down on our pit crew for our team for various reasons, and so then I was covering for our team, which is fine. No problem with that. That's what the team's about. But it's kind of all these things compound one after the other. And so the first time I could actually get a breather was on the grid. It was like, phew. They said 3 minutes to start or 4 minutes to start. I thought, oh, thank goodness for that. I've got 2 minutes to just reset for a moment.
We have the same, in the commentary box. It's like almost you've got to be in a set time before, and I always look forward to that sort of the last sort of 2-3 minutes when you can't go anywhere because you've got to be in place. But you can't do anything. You can't talk to anyone. Nobody can try and check anything. Nobody can muck about with your headsets.
Yeah.
You can't change monitor screens on me. Nothing's going to happen, and we're just going to go. And you can just actually have that breather moment, and it really transfers across. It's the same. I feel for you, Neil, after that. I mean, it's so hectic, and you're combining the team, Gritty Race team, with being there for Gritty as work. and of course racing. It's some serious multitasking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a day where you question your choices. You know, it was one of those ones. But yeah, it was I really did enjoy the course. Around it, it was I kind of felt. Well, it's almost the opposite of a sweet spot. What do you call it? A savoury spot. It wasn't a sweet spot. Sometimes you can get a course which is like Sandwell, and if the weather was great, then the other bits that weren't perfect. Let's put it that way. About the the event, the layout. It's the first time it's been a national trophy. You wouldn't have noticed quite so much, and then the organizer would have had a chance to improve it second time or third time. We see that quite often. So sometimes you can kind of get lucky on it, but it was the first time as a national trophy, and that weather in the lead up was so awful. So it was kind of like this compounding. Any minor issue was a big issue. So access to things. If it had been drier, it would have been fine. People having time to set up. If it had been able to set up the day before, it would have been a lot better.
I think that for me, there's a couple of things. It's sort of almost in there, and that's in the organising team, the team who were the organising team there. You've got a lot of experience. You've got people there who have been responsible for the course at the Commonwealth Games. You've got people who put on World Cup courses in mountain bike. You've got an event team and an event structure, and when you go to them, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get that type of event with them every time. It's going to be great fun. It's going to be great racing, and it may always feel kind of the same event. And to me, the identity of the event actually usually overshadows whether it's a mountain bike national series event, local race. It's one of the specials they do in Cannock. It's their event, and you happen to be there as part of a different series, rather than it's a national trophy event or it's a national mountain bike event. Their events or national championships. When we were down at, I want to say, Newnham Park, it wasn't the national championships. It was their event, and it happened to be the national championships because it was still just like all their events, and it was brilliant. But it's got their identities all over it. And I think they've got such a breadth there that they can step into a new venue, step into a new discipline, step into a new series, and deliver it. And a lot of people would have struggled at that point.
Yeah, as you say, these are very experienced event organisers who, and they're not coming at it from, they're not like the big corporate type of event organisers you sometimes get. These are people who kind of are much more grassroots, and they've done a lot of events. And speaking to several people who were on that setup team, who are very, very experienced people, the message I had was that was the hardest setup they'd ever had to do, and it was a straightforward cyclocross race. There's no trees to take down in the middle of woods and drops and A lines and B lines, and it was so hard to set up. Well, we haven't even really talked about much of the racing yet, so let's talk a bit of racing. What I should have said was I actually did have some new pit crews trainees in my race and in the elite race who did a fantastic job. So those people,
pit crew, always good.
Yeah. So and what I'm going to say this now, or I'll forget later. Okay, we've got Cameron Orr and Finn Mansfield had this really great head-to-head battle. So Cam, obviously one of the best riders around, particularly on the mountain bike, and they were kind of had this really good battle. And they came into the pits. Cam was ahead, and then my novice crew. This is how well trained they were by yours truly, of course. They came in one way round, and they went out with Finn had like 2 bike lengths on them through the pit. It was this absolutely textbook change. I took so much satisfaction from that, particularly that this was new crew who we were just kind of getting on board. Anyway, there we go. That's my anecdote done. And I wanted to, I didn't say I was going to mention this, but I wanted to.
A win's a win. A win's a win.
Yeah.
And what I love about that is
they had a lot of toing and throwing later, and then Cam's years of putting out that much power for longer races came in just on the last lap, so he kind of got a few seconds at the end. That was the outcome of that race for 11th or 12th or 13th. Yeah, anyway, 12th I think that race was for. Anyway, as I say, we were at Sandwell Valley. We had round 4 of the National Trophy. Let's start with the women's race. Fionn Drake took the win, which we're kind of getting used to, ahead of Alderney Baker and Eleanor Day. And then Thomas Main and Toby Barnes took 1 and 2. And they were together for most of the race. And Main put in a big dig. Last 2 laps, that was when he managed to, well, I don't know if he stretched the elastic enough. Dan Barnes came in 3rd on that. So I mean, it was really good racing at the front of the race as well. And yeah, I think I'll just jump straight in. We had off the start, Freya Whiteside looked like she was going to take it to Alderney to begin with, but actually, to take it to Fionn to begin with, but actually it was Alderney Baker all season in the National Trophy. This is the first time I think we've seen someone who looked like they could take on the challenge of Fionn Drake season 25-26. Alderney was really, really strong on that race, and yeah, it was good to see.
And was that experience paying off? Was that extra time on the bike when the conditions were maybe changing? Was it we know Fionn's she's quick, she's got the endurance, she's got good skills, but that experience that Alderney has in the bank just coming to the fore, was it a 1 lap wonder that Alderney put in? Was it what did it?
I looked at the lap times and then did a bit of adding up, and after the first lap, so in other words, you got the out lap and lap 1, if you take it from then until the end of the race, Alderney was 5 seconds faster.
Okay.
So it was the gap was made in that first lap, and then Alderney was either holding it or shaving off a second or two as they went through the rest of the race. So it was just that explosive start which made the difference.
Okay. Interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens as we go through the season. The conditions keep changing. That's for sure. But let's hope for the rest of the world then. After what on paper looks like 3 wins from 3. It's getting closer. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So Thomas, no surprise with Thomas in some ways, just having that extra bit at the end with the 2 laps. I think he's so good at nailing it towards the end of a race, and he's got that power and pace. He's used to he's raced on the continent where that last 2 laps are just like, it's like everybody finds another sprocket at the bottom, and everybody's chainring magically gains another 2 teeth on the front in the last 2 laps of a continental race. It's something that happens magically. It suddenly everything just steps up that extra couple of K an hour, and Thomas just does it naturally now, I think. I don't think he even realises he probably doesn't realise. In fact, I'm sure he doesn't realise he's doing it. He just goes quicker towards the end of and I think that's where that experience, the where he's raced, how he's raced, that's coming to the fore. Always. I mean, it might be a tactical genius master plan that's in his head that he's not telling us, but it's either way, it's working. No real surprises there. I don't think
it was the same as what's happened actually in some other races this season that I've seen him race, where he wasn't the quickest at the beginning. Toby Barnes he was ahead to begin with, and in fact Jensen Young was back for that race. It was really good to see Jensen racing again, and he was leading it to begin with. He was at the end of the first lap. He was leading, and Thomas was he was further back, and then put in a quick one, and he seemed to have warmed up, got his legs going a bit. But that's not the first time that's happened this year. If I have to give James Swadling a shout out, because I think he got the whole shot this year. So he found himself in front. That was it was great. Yeah, it was nice to see James getting a decent off the line. I mean, he's a great rider. He doesn't normally lead a national trophy, so that was nice to see right off the start. But yeah, there were a lot of riders in the mix actually.
That's really, really good. And what would just sort of going back to the actual event? What were the numbers like? Were there loads of people? Was it a low entry? It's middle of the country. I would expect the numbers sort of to go upwards, or at least hold their own.
Yeah, 550, I believe, was the number.
Good, excellent, excellent.
Yeah, it didn't. The event didn't feel full, but I don't blame anyone for not wanting to trudge around with how muddy it was.
There could be a large number of people not actually who had entered who didn't go.
I know that. There were two from my team who didn't go for that reason. One of them because they couldn't get out of where they live in Wales because it was all flooded. They live near Monmouth, which is
wow. Okay.
And another one is focusing on their main focus is mountain biking, and they decided to go to Glentress instead, and they had a whale of a time. So
you can't blame them. Really.
You can't say anything, can you? Mountain bike t-shirt, that's for sure. One of the reasons I asked is actually I watched a really interesting video by Dave Haygarth. On my favourite subject is the National Trophy broken, and that was the title actually that he's put on the video. And there's some really interesting thoughts on that. I suggest to everybody go go onto YouTube, find Dave Haygarth, and have a little look at that. He's out on a bike ride, which makes for great viewing. Yeah, you could even watch it without sound, but that would be kind of defeating the object. And he does ask about some of the questions I think a lot of people are asking about national trophies and about the commitment from national governing body and attendance of officers and jerseys. Is there any leaders' jerseys actually going to turn up at any point? And there's a whole host of points in there, and he doesn't claim to have any answers, but it was definitely thought provoking. I have to say, numbers for me is key to making the whole thing work, particularly if we're going to insist it's a UCI event, which then means that we should have a UCI course with all of the infrastructure that goes with the UCI event. Otherwise, eventually, somebody's going to actually get caught out and actually be in breach of UCI regs because they don't put that on because they haven't got enough money to do it because there's not enough riders there. But even just in terms of it being a national trophy, organisers can't afford to lose money on it, and you need the numbers. We're a rider pays the bills model in it. So I don't want to bang on about it, but we want it there in the future. I want the national trophy to be there when I actually come back to the UK at some point.
Yeah. I saw the video as well, and I think it kind of just it's Dave's way of. It reminded me actually of when we had Dave on the show several years ago, talking about the Three Peaks. It's kind of approaches it from his kind of view, and without being too sensational, but actually making some really valid points, really interesting
all the things that makes him a great organizer, and made him a great nationals organizer, a great national trophy organizer in some pretty horrific conditions. And remember, he basically was the only person to put on a national trophy in COVID.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
he's the only person who did that. He was the only organizer who actually put a trophy on during COVID. It was the one round national trophy series, but my goodness me, he actually achieved it, and it shows you that's somebody who cares passionately, who is literally, I'm sure there's blood, sweat, and tears gone into it in Dave's own inimitable sort of quiet but very considered way. Yeah, for sure. If he's asking questions, it's important, I think.
I've not wanted to raise the jerseys issue because I try not to have a go at other clothing suppliers, but shall we say Notts and Derby League under 14s and under 16s, they've all got their leaders jerseys this year. That
I've seen
Gritty have
those
done
on
for
social
them.
media.
You know,
I've seen those on social media each and every round of the Notts and Derby. Just to compare that, an organiser and the teams would be playing wholly something or other at any of the road events at the National Crit Series if there was not the jersey there, or the National Road Series, and there wasn't a member of staff to administer that and make that happen. That ain't going to happen. That there would be uproar. Honestly, it would be like there would be team cars driven through the doors ram raiding BCHQ if anybody didn't bring if it happened on once. They might accept. Round 2, 3, 4. No, definitely not. There'd be I don't know, track pumps at dawn.
I've deliberately not tried to.
We'll stay out of the conversation.
I've deliberately tried not to dig deep into why, how, and whatever. But I just, as I say, I've compared it to our local league that Gritty are sponsoring, and we did the jerseys, and they were there for round 1. So it's for the.
We've only known the national trophy's
16.
been happening for how long, and
Exactly,
it's going to have how many rounds, and.
Yeah. But I think across the whole, I mean, it's difficult. For all three of us, we've got vested interests in different ways in the national trophy, and we don't. And it's quite difficult.
I don't anymore.
In some ways to.
Do you know what? I don't anymore, and do you know what? It's really, really refreshing to be able to say somebody needs to get the finger out, get on with it, do the job, ring up the clothing supplier. If you can't get that, get a substitute.
I'm gonna insert it in here actually, like European Masters, for example. People go over, they go to a bike race in a new location, they enjoy it, they have fun, and you get some brilliant results.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. Was it just me? But along with some of our usual suspects for wearing a Masters, Worlds, or Europeans jersey, did I see a certain Nationals rider who might work for the armed forces actually in a jersey? Was that for real?
Yes, Simon Hale. Yeah,
no way!
I'm so chuffed. I was so pleased for Simon.
It wasn't just me. I thought I couldn't find the story. I looked and it went, and like sometimes on social media things come and go, and you're like, how the fuck this is gone on my phone?
I was worried.
Maybe I've dreamed it or something.
I was worried for Simon beforehand. A week before, he was racing the same race I was at Marquis, and he had blood coming out of him at the finish.
Look, I know he's a soldier, but that's not kind of. Yeah. You're not meant to mix the two.
I know. I thought, ooh. He'd slipped on steps run up. He'd slipped on it and hit his head. And somewhere
it's not much to damage there with Simon. He'll be fine.
Somewhere where it bleeds a lot. So I thought, I hope you can. I knew he was going to Euros, so I was really hoping he was still going to make it. So to get there and get that result, I'm so chuffed. And Simon's story. We won't go into it now, but it's phenomenal seeing how he's come from not riding to European champion. Absolutely awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, so chuffed.
Yeah. You can go to the back catalogue of the Crosscast because it's covered actually extensively across a couple of them. That's brilliant. There were a fair few Euro titles went out. What else did we get?
Vic Barnett.
Do you remember off the top we had?
He won.
Almost
they were the only victories. And I think Robin Delve got a podium as well. I did see there were quite a lot of other riders out there. Yeah. I saw a 4th place in one of them. So just missing out. But it wasn't the most packed, British contingent out at Euros, but a good solid number.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there was the other Euros, wasn't there, Xan? So
Perhaps.
Middlekirk, where we're now diving into. We've kind of been talking about stuff you weren't at, and then stuff that is difficult to comment on. But so we gave us some of the closest races this year. Tunet's taking a win ahead of Nice and Vashura and Ronha and Mason. And any of them could have won it with a lap to go, honestly. And then we had a total contrast in the women's race, in a very, very different race, with Inge van der Heijden leading from the start, with Brand and Van Alphen just keeping Casasola off. And it ended up being another all Netherlands podium. But Xan, tell us, what was it like? You were there. It looked like you actually had a decent ride, and you seem to be racing for position all the time.
Yeah.
What was the experience?
Oh, it was crazy. The one thing I think I learned from Euros this year is don't have European champs as your first race in Belgium of the season, because you just forget when you don't do it how hard and how aggressive that start is. I had an insane start, moved myself right up, and I was like, yes, this is it. And then I just forgot how to defend any position. I mean, the next few corners I had rider come past and rider come past. But that was almost quite good, because then I had riders to like pick off, and I had like battle to try and move back up. But oh my gosh, what a course for a European champs. It had made a great course for any kind of televised Belgian cross race, but having its Euros champs, it was insane. Like, I don't know if it came across on the TV, but it's one of those courses where there was just absolutely nowhere to rest. You were either in a sandpit, so you were on full gas, or it was pretty dry and flat, so you were going full gas. I think there were 2 like sand descents, and they were the only times I think you stopped pedalling on that entire course, or running, because if you weren't pedaling, you were probably running. Yeah. So it was such a tough course, but kind of so much fun. But definitely one of those ones, I'm sure you all know from being there, where in the moment you're like, this is the worst thing, why am I doing this? This hurts, this is hard, this is painful. And you get off and you're like, actually, I really like that course, I want to race on that course again. It was definitely one of those.
Are you going to go? Would you go back and race it again then?
Oh, I'd 100% race it again. But to say, I want to race somebody in Europe first before doing that, because.
Tell us, what was your strategy on the run ride? Do you go into the sea or not on the beach? Did you try all of the lines?
pretty much. So at the start of our race, it was pretty much a run, because the tide was coming in during our race and then started going back out. And my pit crew, when I went past the pits, because obviously they had a TV so they could see the front riders as they went past, and they shouted at me, "You can ride the beach!" And I was like, what are they on about? That is definitely not a ride. And I got down onto the beach and I was like, oh, the tide must have been in while I've done my lap. So I was with a group of about 3 riders at this point, and I think we all clicked that actually you could ride. What we were also saying is you could tell which riders probably paid for their bikes and which ones don't by the ones that went really far into the sea, and which ones were like, I'll go on the hard bit but not quite get the salt on my bike.
Yeah. So the course itself, it looked very technical because of the nature of the sand and the dunes. How technical was it?
See, it kind of felt like a course of 2 hours, because yes, it did have the very, very technical features, which is why the men's race was so incredible, because it was so hard to stay on a wheel of someone because of all those lines in the sand, and particularly in the sand. You almost want to be the first one. You want the clear run at it, because you'll ride into it and next thing you know, you'll come to a stop or you're booked into another line. So if you're trying to follow someone when that's happening, it is so difficult. But quite a lot of time it was only one line. But then when you didn't have those bits, it was pretty much like a quite straight and flat section. We were quite lucky that there wasn't a lot, well, at least on the Saturday, there wasn't a lot of wind. And I don't know if the racing might have played a little bit differently had there been really strong headwinds, which might have kept everyone together even more than it did. But who knows?
Yeah. And you finished with a top 20 in European champs. So, yeah, must have been pleased with that.
Yeah, especially like I said, I think I spoke last time that I'd been a little bit ill for like a few of the races before. So I kind of went into that race going, it's kind of like a first race. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be a tough course. And it definitely felt like one of the first races here I've really been racing and as I say, I moved right up at the start, ended up sliding backwards, but then I kind of got to ride back through the field. And it was actually almost quite nice because it was quite mentally reassuring that I was moving upwards through the field rather than trying to fight and slide backwards. So yeah, it was a really good race, but also one of those ones that was really good to watch back and see how the leaders were doing it and the difference of how the race was at the front to the race where I was.
Yeah, something I did want to ask you, Zan, actually, is like that the first bank, the first
yes,
run up, ride up, off the start.
You come the 90 degrees off the start, and it's pretty steep.
Yeah, we were having quite some debates here at Gritty HQ, where it was because, and when I watched it live, I thought that looks totally decisive. Just that at the start, and that's not really very fair. And then we watched it again, and we saw the highlights. We thought, oh, actually, maybe it's not that decisive. And then when we watched the highlights, and then I actually did watch the whole race again when I was on the turbo last week. And I really enjoyed watching it, knowing what the result was, because you could kind of see you concentrate on what other people are doing a bit more. You saw quite a lot of different things, and then I kind of flipped back again, and I thought actually that was totally decisive, because what it meant is because Brand, who's been so dominant this year, had such a terrible start, and. Yeah, I think you were next to her. I think she might have been one of those people when you said
she was one of the ones that came flying past. Yes.
So, and because it was Van der Heijden had a good start and was off the front. By the time Brand had caught up, they were some distance behind, and it seemed like it was almost. It wasn't kind of race over. The race was still going on, but from a strategy point of view, it was like Brand's chance was gone at that point, and it was just because of that first climb. That was my thinking. Is that true, or
I think it's definitely an interesting obstacle to have that early on in a race. Like normally, you'll have a 90-degree corner before you kind of hit something quite so decisive, and I think. Like, I watched the video from the men's when that was Belgian national champs a few years ago. And I think pretty much Van Aert was the only rider that got up it on the first lap and kind of set himself up for the rest of the race. And I think that's kind of how the women's played. I think Inge van der Heijden was probably one of the only riders I think made it actually up, clipped in over it. Because it was quite, even later laps, if you were with a group, there was only one line that was nice to ride. You could just about get away with other lines, but there was one where you were going to clear it and it was easy. The other ones, you might have to like push it over the top or really struggle and fight the bike. So I think that just gave her that clearing at the front. She didn't have to stress or worry, kind of try and get back on a bike, scoot over. And like sometimes it's just that. She's had quite a clean start. She's not stressed. She's not panicked. And she rode away. And I think some of it, actually, it's that calmness. It's that she's not had to put a little dig to catch back on that kind of set the race up for how it then played out.
That was exactly what it looked like to me. She still needed to ride that, a beautifully ridden race. She was, I think she looks so composed, and during the race, and was able to just keep it going. There was one really interesting moment. I was sort of looking at what was happening behind for sort of second or onwards, and there was a moment. They actually said in the commentary on it, Brand went round and attacked Casasola, and I was actually like timing the gap. I was looking. When I watched it the second time, and I was kind of timing the gaps just to see how it played out, and when the commentary, and I totally agree, that's just what it looked like, said Brand has attacked Casasola, the gap was 12 seconds. Next time we saw a timing sheet, when Brand put on the expression of attacking and had got ahead, the gap was 22 seconds. And so this kind of almost looked like a fake attack, just to pull the gap. And once I noticed that, I saw this happen several times. Brand's attacks were able to actually open the gap by 10 seconds rather than close it, just to kind of keep the whole race under control. And there's almost this flip at one point, with a couple of laps to go, where it looked like Casasola had suddenly the penny dropped this is now a race for second and the podium. And then she had a bad moment, and then it was like all of her mojo went, and that was it.
And she ended up a long way back, once it had gone, it was, brands like that, though, I think. I think when you watch Lucinda Brand, it's very difficult to tell because she's so on it all the time. She just seems to be full gas everywhere. She just races everything. She's got one time. Just go. I'm going to go as fast as I can and put it basically everywhere. And yet, actually, there are differences in there, but you just can't tell when it is. And you're taking your best guess at when. It's so hard to tell. And I think it's a really good point. You look at her and you think, is she going hard? Is this an attack? Is this going to get a time gap back? Is this going to open it up? Is it going to come down? And you never ever know, do you? And it's the same in other races. It's not just exclusive to Middlekirk and this race. I think we were seeing more of that, this last weekend as well, but in a different context, obviously.
Yeah. The men's race couldn't have been more different in some ways. It was. It was such an exciting race to watch, and I think because if you race cross and you know how hard it is in the sand like that, and you know how difficult it is to ride it and to ride it well and to attack on it and stuff, and then you've got these people closing gaps. It was just like. It was awesome to watch as a race. Two Aerts, got that win. After what would you call it? He's come back for a couple of seasons. So in some ways, it's like I sort of think that might have sort of broken that moment of he may be back now as to where he was several years ago.
He's exercised the demons, hasn't he? Now they're gone, and it's now the relief. I think almost you could see when he pulled, when he'd done it and he got the jersey, and afterwards with family and the friends, you could see that. And he's been through, for whatever reasons, and we don't need to reopen that whole can of worms. But he's now out the other side of that, and he's back in, and he's now pulled on a championship jersey, and. I think I saw that and I thought, right, okay, here comes a long streak of two Aerts winning stuff. Yeah. And boy, was I wrong. How wrong was I? And I thought this is now going to be it because he's got it done and dusted. We know Thibaut's on. We don't need to say he's going to be riding well this season. He's on the back of a Tour de France, and he's a great rider. He's got a fantastic kick. We've seen him since he was a kid. Blah 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 blah. We know he's there, but Toons, it was a real turnover moment. This is a rider that we've watched. It's not that long ago. We were watching him busting ribs on the Namur and coming a cropper on some really nasty descents and throwing bodily parts at this at Cross just to get round the course. But now he's kind of back. There was some really interesting racing in there. Pim Romhaus kind of like he's he's sort of flip flop season man at the moment. He's so strong early on, and then he's got there, and then he's not, and he is, and then he's at the back, and Cam's just showing. Cam is doing Cam stuff. Cam is doing what Cam does, and it's just getting close. There's 4 seconds separated the top 5, was it? I think at European, something like that. It was 4 or 5 seconds separating the top 4 or 5 riders.
Know what? I went through. I said I'll come back to this. I went through lap times. Fastest rider over the last 5 laps was Cam Mason. I was about to say Cameron or Cam Mason. He was the fastest rider over those final 5 laps. So he's got the speed. I think he's also kind of got rid of some of his really bad start demons. I don't think he had a particularly bad start. It was just like he had a start and he was in with other people that were in that bunch at the end. But he was good.
Can I just bring it on that point, Neil? It was really interesting that his post-race interview at Hammer.
Yeah.
And his post-race interview where he talked about, apart from his language skills, which were entertaining, and I know he's been working hard on that, so I'm not going to take the mickey because he does miles better than I ever could in any language, English included. But he was talking about his starts, and he was talking about the fact he doesn't panic. And it's just, I want a steady start. And he's actually turned what was perceived to be his disadvantage now to his advantage. He's all grown up. Part of growing up is when you know what you're good at, you know what you're not so good at, and you actually learn to work with that, and actually you make the best of that, and actually you turn what could be a disadvantage into an advantage. And he's doing that now with such maturity. Honestly, just you could use that as a lesson for young riders. He's going to make one day, if he can impart that information, he's going to make one of the best DSs or coaches out there, because he's thought about this. It's just not all instinctive. A lot of this is thought. It's planned. He's now got shoulders. He's bulked up. He's got big shoulders. He can pull the bike. He looks so planted in technical stuff because he's thought about what he wants to do and he's worked on it. And I think he's going to make an amazing. Don't do it for a long time, please, Cam. Loving the racing, but he's going to make a brilliant DS or coach, one or the other or both. I think he's got, he's the sort of person that you want to listen to.
Yeah. Well, I think the nature of the race was always driven by the fact that there were so many good riders at the front. There was one moment early on which I did give a minor cheer at, where it was this perfect sequence of blue, orange, blue, orange, blue, orange, blue, orange at the front of the race. Yeah, so it was kind of like they'd all meshed together beautifully, as they had come through at the beginning. Before we move on from Middlekirk, I want to mention two junior riders. Bukowska. Why am I mentioning her? She won the female juniors because I tipped her at world champs last year.
You did. Oh, you did as well, didn't you? Yes.
So
I was just thinking about this. Has got to be a Neil. Neil has just proved if you wait long enough for something to happen, if you tip every rider, eventually one of them will. No, good shout. Fair dues.
Yeah, so I was pleased to see that.
We are not worthy, sir. Yeah. Good tipping.
But I'm going to put in an early tick for the World Championships competition, if that's all right. Just mine. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I think we also need to mention another rider in that race. So there were two bikes that came in through that are worth a mention. Don't normally talk about the bikes. Tone Aerts, he won on, I'd like to call them a mullet, a bit like what you used to have in downhill. So the rear of it,
two different wheel sizes, 26 and 27.5.
So that's a classic. Yeah, that's a classic mullet. But in this case, it's the rear of the bike is one bike, the front of the bike is another one, potentially. I'm kind of being a bit provocative there. So the rear of the bike is a UCI approved Orbea Orca, and the fork, I think, was an Orbea Terra, which is a gravel bike. It certainly seemed to do the job for him. I'd noticed it before in other races. His bike looked like a road bike, but he's got long legs. So quite how much it needs to with his Orbea sponsorship, I don't know. But that it was just an interesting. The other bike actually that we ought to touch on, because this is a strange story on this one. So this is Pelizzotti, who finished 4th in the junior women. So she rides Ghiacchiotti, which is a Italian brand. You've been able to buy them in the UK. They used to be one of the Planet X brands. They used to bring them in, very serviceable, decent bikes. Now she was actually DQ'd after the race, after finishing 4th, because the bike that she was riding was apparently not UCI approved. So she was riding what was it? She was riding a Vito, which is a new frame. Previously, she used to ride a Sandwell, which is another frame. But this, she seems to not get through because of that. Now, it was the first race of the weekend. Some of her teammates went on, and they actually borrowed bikes for later in the weekend, and I think they had some success actually. Some of her teammates, but then. This is one of those. Oh, this is really disappointing. That brand. They should know. They do know. And then what actually made it even more, what added to this mystery really is then the veto appeared on the UCI approved frames list, dated the 7th of November, which is the day before. I checked the results, and she was still on this DQ list. So it just seems really strange.
Yeah, I think it's definitely incredibly harsh, particularly for a junior girl rider. Like, this is someone who is kind of just stepping up through the sport, and like, it is really harsh, especially when she has an equipment sponsor, because it is one of their team's title sponsors, and to get caught out at European Champs. Now, I think last year all the UCI teams, the governing bodies, had an email with all the, what I think it's called, the homologation dates, because last year they brought into force that all bikes at a World Cup and World Championships, and I think they actually have been enforcing it at World Champs in years before, have to be registered with the UCI. But it was only last year where it came into force at the World Cups. Now, personally, I take if it's at the World Cups, it's going to be at European Champs. But what's interesting, after the event, I actually went to go check the tech guide that the riders and the national governing bodies get. Now, it didn't say they don't have to be homologated, but it didn't actually say it in black and white that at the European Championships it would need to be either. So I just think it's incredibly unfortunate, especially for a rider of her age now. If it was in the elite race, I would say, the rider at that point should know, the team at that point should know. But for a junior rider, it's just so incredibly harsh, and I do feel for her. But...
Oh, you're much nicer than me. You see, I coming back to something at the start of the show, in terms of cycling esports, there's a ride. They threw 2 wildcards into the World Championships, and they gave a wildcard to somebody who had an equipment failure. And in a podcast, one of his competitors said, "I am doing this. I have been in this sport for a year, but as part of this sport is 1, knowing the rules, and 2, making sure my equipment's right. So I have a backup internet." I think, it is hard. It's not a great place for anybody to be in, and I do feel for her, but it's there for a reason. And it's how many years ago were we talking about Nathan Smith having to borrow
exactly
a Trek from Sven?
Yeah.
That was in Fayetteville.
That's right. Yeah. So I think,
and that's a long time ago.
Yeah,
and they should, the team, the national body. This won't. Of course, this isn't news for them or the manufacturer. If it wasn't on the list, for me, I don't know quite how it got back on the list for that. But how were they, Xan? You were racing there. What's the check procedure?
So I'm kind of making assumption because I don't know for certain, because I'd never asked the guy. But or you might not know this, but at the start of a race for years, because we've even done this at national trophies, a guy walks around with an iPad and scans your bike. I did notice that the guy this year was taking a photo of for me, it was like the rear triangle kind of part of the bike. So I assume they were taking a photo of your sticker at that point if you had one in the frame, and then probably checking it either if they had a team doing it in the race or after the race, because the fact that she finished, her pit crew weren't informed prior, etc., makes me think it was almost like a retrospective check that got her which is why I think that was where the check was happening. And I imagine they were also checking pit bikes. There was probably someone doing the same in the pits, because obviously riders can have 2 different bikes potentially.
Yeah. Because the first set of results, she wasn't
fourth
on the DQ, and then it switched through. Yeah, so
I think that's processing time, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's processing time,
which has to happen.
You can't instantaneously run it down, but it's your bike's going to get checked for a motor. Your bike's going to be checked for 33mm tires. We've known that it's going to be checked for a sticker now for years. It's been coming. We warned about it on the Crosscast 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Neil was eagle-eyed in his scanning of the rules.
Anyway, we've spoken about stickers for a long time. I'm not going to let this one pass, though, because I can't allow a Lawrence Sveek win go unnoticed by Neil. At Neil was happy. Sveek did his stuff.
I knew this was going to happen when I saw the result before I watched it.
Really unusual. I don't think we need to go into too much detail there, apart from Neil was happy. I love it that it's midweek. I started watching it. It was a great race, actually. I started watching when I was eating my whatever it was, my pasta in a tub, and then carried on watching it when I was hoping that Sveeky was going to win it. And I was paid back. Yeah, great to see that. The course was really different to previous years, and the fact that they rode up what is an unrideable climb was pretty amazing this year. Shout out to Fionn Drake. Cracking ride from Fionn. In some ways, it was like, yes, this is what we were waiting for. In some ways, she's proven it on the continent now. She's done, going to Neil, getting I was going to say 10th. It was 10th, wasn't it?
I think it was 10th. Yeah, 10th. I'm sure it was top 10.
Getting that top 10. I was going to say 9th, so I would have gone too high. But that 10th, cracking ride, really, really strong, and it's kind of nice to see someone translate from national trophy wins into 100%. Such a strong ride on the continent. And at that, I think it's time to take the bell and look forward to what's coming up in the Leicester Ronda. Coming up, I think the big things are we've got 2 World Cups and 1 World Masters. So it's the world stage and it's the world scene that's coming up. We were waiting for these all year. We've got Tabor coming up. I think all of us have actually been on the site there. Xan, have you've raced? Yeah. So it's yeah. I'm going to say it again. I say it every time.
Raced. Yeah. You've pitted, and I've been on the mic.
Yeah.
I think we've covered a lot of the boxes there. Nobody's come and said there, but other than that, I think we've done. Yeah.
Beautiful place.
Not bad.
Believe it or not, which I was very, very surprised by when I went there after only ever seeing it from a cyclocross perspective. The actual city is gorgeous. It's lovely place.
The city is beautiful, but the setting for the cyclocross is not necessary. It doesn't do it justice.
No.
I've walked around there. It's a nice place to be, but. Yeah.
Okay, Xan, you give us the preview then. You've raced it, and what's your thoughts on Tabor?
I love Tabor, but the thing with Tabor is, even though the course stays fairly similar, you don't know what you're getting with Tabor. We could have a frozen over race. We could have snow, which, by the way, snow is currently forecast. So brace yourselves. Or we could have an absolute slop fest, and it could go any way, which kind of makes it really exciting, but also means what should I be doing to prepare for it? Because I actually don't currently know what it's going to be running like. But again, it's just one of those really, really iconic courses. You have those uphill hurdles, which I think when they were one of those first kind of uphill hurdles. You have banks, you have canvas, you've got the muddy bits, you've got the fast straights. But what I think the cameras never capture is how much elevation is in that lap.
Yeah.
I think if you watch it, other than the hurdles, it looks flat. But my memory, it does.
It's not flat, is it?
It's not.
You walk up the bank and you're trying to go up the bank where you guys are riding up and down it, and it's this whole spectator sport of watching other spectators fall up and down the banks because you can't get up or down. And the big climb up the back. When you come back, you sort of come back down and you go over the hurdles, and then it goes up, and then it just goes up and up and up, and you disappear off into town and come back again. It's so far. It's so high. There are multi-story flats nearby that are short. They're lower. They're looking up out of the 15th floor at you guys on the top of the hill. It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's massive. I mean, you don't, and it looks so flat.
Yeah,
on
it does.
telly, on the monitors. It's like you get there. I went there thinking, "Oh, I'll have a nice easy walk." Oh, okay, maybe not.
Yeah.
It's just there must be flat bits of Czechia, but it's just not there.
No, the only flat bit is the start finish straight.
Yeah. So Tabor, if you're trying to place what course this one is, I think there are so many classic bits. You've got that ramp into the hurdles. Anyone that's hopping those, it's so impressive. I have vivid memories when
it could happen. It's more likely to happen this weekend, though. It is more likely to happen because it's going to be harder. The surface is going to be harder.
Yeah.
It's when we had world champs there, it was sloppy and it was warm and there was mud and it was greasy and it was impossible. Even though one or two people did it in practice, I think you can see more. That's my prediction for Tabor. More people hopping the hurdles because it'll be
It's got the bits where you got the banks around what I always refer to as the cricket pavilion, although I'm sure it's not cricket. It looks like a cricket pavilion though, and then it has these. It's got kind of corners into run-ups, which is it's kind of it's. Actually, was it Tabor last year? We saw people slipping on the steps. I think that was Tabor. Where we. Oh no, it's World Champs. Of course, it was World Champs. People were slipping on the steps on those run-ups. And I think too for people that particularly the many people that are listening who might be racing there, it is one of those courses, and it's Neil talking about these courses again, where the last overtaking points is a long way before that finishing straight. So if you're not a sprinter, you've got to be in front, right at the top of the hill, maybe a little bit further down, because it kind of comes down. It's really fast down the hill. You go through these like a few, really technical sections. They kind of don't look it in some ways, but you're not going to be able to sort of just put power in to get past someone. And then you go past the bottom pit, and then it's a 180.
I got a point, Neil. Neil, on this. When you get there, because it's so much steeper than it looks on TV, when you come round down into the pits just before you come down into the finish, the way that they've done the bank last year, and may well be this year, that section down now is really rooted. There's a couple of really nasty little sections in there. And I saw a couple of riders making moves on an alternate line there. So there is, if you're skilled, a opportunity coming into the pit to make time. Just on the right-hand turn, just before you come in and down. It's a really, really interesting section. Then you've got the pit. And again, that pit, it gets really boggy. So watching the line either side of the pit, there were a couple of moves made in the World Champs on that rather than on the end. But for mere mortals, 99% of the race field is up the top, I agree. But there are... It's got a Tebow line dive written all over it on some of those corners. For sure. On the way to finish, stack it or go.
Yeah. And the final pit is so close to the finish. That's quite an interesting one, though. It's so if you've got a problem with your bike, then it is, you're not coming back from that if you're right at the end of the race. So, Tabor in Czechia. I've not seen start lists for this one, and I've also not seen sort of when people are returning, across the board, because there's so many riders who are out at the moment. But what we have seen recently is this kind of, the new generation. Matt, we were talking about earlier. It's like new generation. All the, you've got people who are fresh at the front. They really want it because they've not had a race, many wins at the front at this level. These ex under 23s.
Yeah, we've seen. I've watched it twice actually. I know it sounds really sad, but I actually really, really loved Ham this year. Loved it. Not the sort you put in your sandwiches. I know, but and it's not pronounced on the constant. I also know that as well. But it is really. It was the women's race was good. The men's race was good, but in the men's race, I absolutely loved the fact we had a returning sort of Joris Nieuwenhuis charging through the race field after, doing a Xan almost and sitting. It wasn't quite sitting down on the start line, but it was on the first corner, and then he made his way right the way through the field. It was a brilliant riding. But the front, you got Tebow and Cam, And I mean, the pendulum swung one way, and then it swung the other, and you could see the fatigue, and you see the effort, and you just, I looked at that and just thought, this really is setting us up. It is. We've been waiting for this sort of almost new generation to come through, and with Lars, retiring, and we've seen a lot of the riders really struggling to stay at the front who have been around. Tom Mewson, we saw at Ham. He's been an absolute stalwart, but he crashed heavily, went out. Sveik is not looking like he's on the same sort. I know he's taking a win now at Neil, which made Neil very happy. But I think we're seeing this new generation.
Three in a row. Three in a row.
They're on the way. I think we're going to see. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to really show us who's up for the season in the men's and the women's racing. And are we going to see this new guard coming through? You've got a resurgent Van Alphen coming in now as well, who's sort of moving up, and Van der Heiden's starting to come through. And I know they've been around a while, but it's nice to see that mix coming back in. I think it'll be very interesting to see how that now plays out in Tabor, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I have to say, just a quick flip over back to Middlekirk. Luke Trafford, you were talking about people being on the floor in the first corner. Luke Trafford had a decent start in the junior men's, and then was just one of those first corner crashes. I was plumb last when he got up. So gutting, absolutely gutting for him. Ended up coming through to 32nd, but then back that up with a win on Saturday. Oh no, yesterday. Yesterday he got a win yesterday, so good bounce back for Luke. But a bit gutting off the start. So that was Tabor. Other race coming up the week later. Now Matt, as our French correspondent, I'm going to fling this one over to you, Flamanville.
Flamanville. Yes, indeed. It's kind of just up the road from us, which means it's like 3 hours away because we're 30 minutes away from anywhere. So we always take 30 minutes away off. If it's an hour, that's like round the corner. But the racing, it is. Do you know what it is for me? Flamanville is like a flatter version. It's like a squished Hulst because it's kind of like like a mini version. Hulst is in the Citadel. It's got a massive descent and a massive climb. And you do these weird bits by the side of the moat. Well, when you go to Flamanville, it's like a civilized French chateau version of it. It's got a nice pontoon along the side rather than a muddy bit stretch of side of the moat. It's got a nice little set of steps to come up instead of this dirty great run up. They've kind of done the civilized version. You drop down in the old moat, come around. It's got all the classic features. It's almost even got a bit of gravel track on it. It's that kind of course. It's got woodland, it's got track, it's got banks, it's got pontoons over bits of water, it's got ramparts that you go over and all defensive features in there. There isn't a windmill like Hulst. That's probably the biggest difference. But it's classic cross, and it's matured. I wasn't a super fan on year one, I have to admit. Year two, Richard, and now I think it produced some great racing last year. I'm really looking forward to it because I think it'll produce some great racing as well. It's not as at the moment. Tabor, I think at the weekend is going to be -5 overnight and 1 degree or 2 degrees in the daytime. So it's probably still going to be pretty much frozen in the shade anyway. It's going to feel like about -15. Don't worry, Sam. But for Flamanville, at the moment we dropped from 19 degrees yesterday afternoon to 9 degrees this afternoon. Well, if it keeps on going like that, it'll probably be similar numbers, but it's always going to be warmer. It's even when it's cold, it's always going to be muddy because there's been a lot of rain. It is pretty mucky out there at the moment, and I think it's going to be a real mixed. You're going to love it, Sam. Just because you're going to love the camber sections. You love the mud sections. The pontoon. I want you to tell me, is it noisy? Because you go over the pontoon, you go up, and then you drop back down again. Is it as scary as it looks?
Okay.
It looks scary to me because I just think hitting that at full speed might be a bit entertaining. But anyway, we will find out. I'm really looking forward to that. I think the first 2 rounds, you got 2 absolute cracking rounds that will really set us up for what is every week basically now till February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a Zwift, in the sense, when Zwift first started and it had those underwater tunnels. It's kind of, and the course map has got this bit of the course map. Yeah. And the course map at Flamanville has got this bit that goes through the lake, and that's the bit which has got the pontoon.
It's a classic sort of. When I first saw it, I hadn't spent as much time in France, and I thought, oh, this is just a bit weird. Actually, I could probably show you 3 places that are identical to that between here and the cake shop, which is usually an hour's ride, but 40 minutes when you're hungry away. I can show you 3 or 4 places like that around here that have the same trees, the same avenue, as the same lake that's like not really a lake anymore. It's been part of a moat. It's a turreted chateau. It is classically French, and I think it's kind of all old school, but quite entertaining, quite civilized as well.
Yeah. The other race which is coming up about the same time is the Masters World Championships, which is coming from Varese in Italy. I know there's quite a few people going over. Have a great time, people. I know several are driving. I hope that you count the tunnels. So take a photograph of every tunnel that you go through. It kept us. I can't remember what number we got up to. Got up to quite a lot. And make sure you include the Channel Tunnel if you're driving. It's near Milan, and it seems like it's all within like a sports centre, in the sense of it's inside a running track or some sort of track. So it could well be a great one for spectating, a bit like Derby. It's really a good area for spectating. So good luck, everyone. And there's also the team relay, but we're not allowed to call it Masters World Championships. Go to great length in the manual to talk about it. It's quite funny.
I take it you've read it, Neil. You've read this, have you? Yeah. I think we should read this to people. There's a number of typos in the manual, which we can forgive anybody for.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because clearly the espresso machine hadn't been fired up quite as normal, and the phrasing is: no one may claim, in particular on social media or on any other media, that he/she is crowned or medalled in the UCI Masters Cyclocross World Championships for riding the team relay format. It's like we're going to do this, and I understand why they've done it. They're protecting a world championship is a world championship until when it's awarded as a world championship. This is not. It is a team relay test event. I love the bit about jerseys. Teammates of a single team must wear all the same jersey design at the exclusion of the national outfit.
Yeah.
Okay. But do you know what? I think it's great. All world championships, irrespective of discipline, just about should have a team relay.
Yeah.
I think so. And national championships should have a best event of the
I expect they'll be there again. Normally, Masters Champs stays in the same venue for 2 years. I don't know if it is there again next year, actually. I could probably find out if I looked. But yeah, for me as a DS of a team, I think actually that would be really good if we, as a team, if we went out there, gritty race team, and we had 4 of us who were able to race the team relay. I think that'd be really cool. I'd love to do that. And it would be attractive for me to go. And I think as a team, it would be brilliant to do. I think we ought to have it at National Champs as well, but I don't know quite when, because probably people. But that's a different matter.
Yes, we should have every type of races. I'd love to see it all National Champs, but certainly in terms of World Championships, I think it should be. Yeah, it should be there. I also thought it was really good. Actually, they've got the school games on there on the Friday morning as well, so they've got that actually on site as well. And I think for me that's one of the key things. I think it should equally be mandatory at the World Championships that you give out free. This could get me in trouble, actually. I'll still say it. What the heck? The All World Championships should give out free tickets to kids. in the local schools within the area. I think there should be free admittance for all kids at all World Championships.
So we will wrap things up here. Now, Xan, we know where you're going to be. When are you travelling over for the first of your races?
So I travel over to Tabor on Thursday, and then I will basically be staying out in Europe after that. So this is it now for the UK for this year.
Oh, amazing. I'm so excited to see where. And apart from Tabor and Flamanville, are there any other European races we can follow you on?
Well, I will be doing, so once obviously we've got Tabor and Flamanville, we pretty much then, it will be the Belgian races. Most of the World Cups for like that month do fall in Belgium, but there's a few others I'm doing, so Kortrijk, which is one of my favourite kind of city cross races. But yeah, that'll be me. And obviously you can keep up to date with all my little updates on social media, which is just Zancrew. So I'm sure you'll have to find out how to spell that one. Matt, where will we be finding you for the next few weeks?
It's going to be watching the cyclocross. I mentioned my colleague Ant McCrossan earlier on. Ant is doing the first shift. We split the season between Anthony and myself. So Anthony's going to be covering all the cyclocross for the UCI, which is available on the UCI YouTube channel as well as around the world on various broadcasters. If you don't have a home broadcaster, so if you're in the UK, it will be on Discovery, and the team there will be covering it because they have their own commentary team. If your nation doesn't have their own commentary team, you get Anthony up till whatever round it is before Havre or Gavert, and then that'll be me, and then I will be doing that. So for the next few weeks, I'm going to be watching a lot of cross, doing a bit of riding, a bit more riding, and still doing the Sunday show. But I've got 6. Don't say it out loud. I've got 6 weeks potentially where we've only got a few shows a week, so I'm kind of like touching wood around the studio. There is some in here somewhere that actually it stays that way, and I can just keep watching lots of cross and keep on being inspired by great races and great riding to get out of the commentary chair and get out of the studio and get out and actually ride the bike, which I hope everybody else is by the racing, because it is brilliant. Neil, whereabouts in the world are you heading? You must have a local race coming up?
Well, yeah, I'm going to Uganda first.
What? Is this a new cross venue that you're scouting out for the, or is this the new gritty HQ or development squad?
World Champs course was in Rwanda this year for the road. So next door is Uganda. So I'm there for a few days, and then I'm moving over to Kenya for a few days, because I was mechanic for Kenya at World Mountain Bike Champs, but I don't think we're going to be able to link up when I'm there. But we've been in touch. Shame. But we're trying to arrange something, but it's not kind of going. No, it doesn't look like it's going to fall into place. So I'm not there for that long. But that's sort of my other hat is taking me out there, so I'm looking forward to getting a bit of sunshine and looking at some of the work we're doing in sort of building public health stuff and fitness and in Uganda, and then into Kenya, which is looking at restoration, ecosystem restoration especially, and a few other things in terms of design and entrepreneurship. So we're working with I'll be going somewhere. I'll be actually staying at a place that was once a plantation, and it's been reconverted back to native forest. And we're working with the guys there, their team there, who are doing. Yeah, if you're going to replant native forest, you need seeds to do it. You need millions and millions of seeds, and so they're kind of working on this seed bank there. So we're kind of partnering with that group there. Anyway, that's with my other hat on. So I'm
Can I just say, Neil, you just have an absolutely ace other job. It has to be said. It's like I'm just listening, just with jealous, just thinking, it's just amazing. Yeah. What an amazing project to get the inside track on. Oh man, brilliant, love it.
Yeah, so that's all going to be good. And then when I get back, we're straight into organising a race. So we're at Holme-Pierpont, the next round of the Gritty Knots and Derby Cyclocross League. So First of all, of course, get your entries in. Not National Trophy this time, but to the Notts and Derby Cyclocross Holme Pierpont League. That'd be great if you could be there. And if you're not going to be racing at Holme Pierpont, then can you come and marshal? Come and give us a hand. And if you're not going to be doing that, then because we're going to be busy at that, we're not going to be able to be trading at Holme Pierpont. And because I'm away, we're probably going to have another week off at these vital times of the year. So you can go onto the website, Ashley, and I must mention this one because at Gritty, we've got our full send sale, which is at the end of this year. We were trying to get all kinds of, it all got very contrived as to, we love riding drops, so we dropped our prices. They all sound a bit cheesy, so we just call it full send. So actually, there's and what's been nice with that is Caroline's phone. It kind of pings at you when you get a sale, and as soon as the newsletter went out, it kind of every 5 or 10 minutes it was going bing, bing. It was like yay, and it was kind of a lot. So yeah,
I'm sure there's an advert like that, Neil. I'm sure there's a TV advert I've seen like that.
So obviously there's kit, which is sort of some of our older designs, which we're putting the sale. And then
it can't just be old stuff. You must have some new stuff though, Neil, as well coming up. Come on.
Yeah, well, we're getting lots of new bits and pieces. Today, we were hoping that we were going to get it for the weekend, but today we've had. Hang on, I'm just trying to click something here. Yeah, today we've had the delivery from the factory of our new kids kit, which is so much fun.
Go on.
This is I'm going to show you this, guys, because I had it here ready. Look at these. Isn't that cute?
Wow.
Long sleeve, really bright colours.
You're not going to miss them in that, are you, when it's all muddy? My goodness me.
Little reflective tag. It's really nice.
Has that got pockets as well?
Yeah, little tiddly pocket.
Oh, mate, love it.
Little,
I want to be like 4 years old or whatever.
It is so gorgeous.
I don't.
Get one for you. Get one for your child. Get one for your teddy bear. They're all great.
Get one for your dog mascot.
I
bet it'll be.
But we started doing kids kit.
You know what? It might fit.
We started doing kids kit as there was a girl. She must have been about 7 or 8, and she came up and her mum bought one of our jerseys, and this girl said, "I wish you made kids kit, because I really want one of those, and it doesn't fit me." And we thought, that's the market speaking. So we actually made a version of that jersey. And it was so popular. Literally, it came from the factory, I think, on the Wednesday or Thursday. We had a couple of events that weekend, and we put in a reorder on the Monday because we knew it was going to be a success. So that's been great. So if you've got lucky kids in your life, lucky relatives or your own, or you are a lucky kid, then we got long sleeves as well as short sleeve now, and of course you can treat yourself. So yeah, anyway, that's the new stock. That's enough of Neil's sales banter just here. And thanks everyone for coming in and picking up the Rutland studs. A lot of people have been using those, so that's been quite nice.
Is there going to be are you now going to be developing another sort of, a Rutland 2.0? Is there more in line for more specialist things, like for Xan when she's running up the icy banks into Bore because it's -5?
It's a perfect stud as it is. It's
okay.
No, the reason I say that is because we spent so much time working on like the length and the durability, because you don't want it so long that when you are running up steps that it catches, and so that's why they're the length they are. Of course, you want it long enough so that then when you're not on steps, and it will dig in. And so I think we've really hit the sweet spot on it. But I would say that, wouldn't I? Of course, I would say that.
Yeah, but you're also geeky. You're also geeky enough, and have done the kind of like a professor in this stuff. If you can't get it right now, Neil, you won't give up.
I know, exactly. I'll tell you the other thing that is. I genuinely, if people were interested in these, then we could look into it a bit more. But I made myself a profile of the Three Peaks with my route as it goes over it, and I've printed it, and it came out so nice. It's gorgeous. The geometry, the GIS data of the Three Peaks, and plotted all of that in 3D in some CAD software. And then I took my elevation data for the Three Peaks, superimposing one on top of the other, and then I popped mine up by about 30 meters, so it kind of goes, and then it's elevated above the actual topography data, and then print it out.
I might have to have a stage of the Giro. Wow.
It came out really, really nicely. I'm so chuffed with it. So that might be a few Christmas presents for people who have done the 3 peaks. But yeah, if people are interested in that, then just drop me a message and I'll work out how much to charge you. Cool. That I think we're. Oh, look at that! Look at the time. So. It's been great, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the support, and thanks to those of you who have been saying how much you're enjoying the show this year. When I've seen you at races, it makes so much difference, and it's lovely to hear from you. Do you remember we're on YouTube as well as on your podcast? So we're at the Crosscast Cyclocross on YouTube. If you'd like to support the show in other ways, then please come on to buymeacoffee.com/crosscast. And of course, thanks everyone who have done that already. It makes so much difference. It means that we can basically keep the show on the road, and it's kind of, it balances off nicely. So if you haven't done, then this is a good time to buy us our Christmas coffees. And what that happens is that actually comes to us as money. So that obviously we pay a service fee, and then that comes to us, and then we put that straight into paying for the software and the upload and the hosting of the Crosscast. And so thanks so much everyone for doing that. Absolutely love it. And thanks to those regulars who kind of seem to do it every show or every month, or set up regular ones. It makes a massive difference, and thanks so much for that. It's really, really appreciated. At that, now we'll wrap things up. So have fun, everyone. Have a great time out on the continent. Xan, really good luck. We'll all be cheering for you from a distance, or hopefully some of us will be cheering from you from the other side of the tape. And everyone else will see you on the other side of the tape. Bye.